everybody. Welcome back to GiantBomb.com's coverage of E3 2017. I'm Jeff Gerstmann. The night continues.
The endless night.
That's right. No, it will end at some point.
Will we go into dreams?
These nights do not go into dreams. There's no 3D control pad here. Don't even try to bring one.
But Sega Saturn. All right.
All right, I mean, I will happily play some Saturn games. Just look, we can talk about my problems with Nites all night.
All right.
But tonight is not the night for Nites.
Okay.
Tonight is the night for Burning Rangers.
Sonic Team, though. Yeah. Yes, Burning Rangers. Thank you.
Let's get into it. Samantha Kalman is here.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm glad to be here.
Systemera.
Systemera. Astroneer.
Yeah.
Space. Yes, thank you. It's new. It's new.
Yeah.
I actually saw it for the first time on the Giant Bomb stream in December, like a UPF. And I was like, this game looks awesome. And then I was working on it 6 months later. So.
That's amazing.
Props. And we're big fans of
matchmaking.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all about
we want to just try to connect people to other people. Robin Hunicke's here.
Yeah, that's right.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Video games mom.
Video games mom. That's my job. I was helping her with her mic earlier, and she said, "Oh, video games mom." That's right.
Of Luna fame.
Luna. That's right. Yeah, we were behind closed door here at E3, so kind of keeping it a little stealth till Gamescom. Still.
All right. All right.
It was great.
Undercover.
Yeah,
Secret stuff.
It's a delicate game. I like to unravel it one petal at a time.
And from the Indie Megabooth, Kelly Wallick is here. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you again.
So the Indie Megabooth was kind of in the news a little bit, just to talk about some of that stuff a little bit. There was the story about Devolver.
Yes.
So you're showing over there in the Devolver lot and all that other stuff. How's that been going?
It's actually really awesome. This is the 4th year that we've been doing that with them, and I guess my 5th year at E3, and it's just kind of the first time that I was thinking of coming. I didn't really know too many people, and I reached out to Nigel, and I was like, hey, should I come to E3? And half the people I talked to said, no, oh my God, it's awful. And then the other half were like, oh, you should definitely go, it's amazing. And then I reached out to Nigel, and I was like, do I need a pass? Like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, just come and hang out, and we'll have beers and whatever. And so it's always been this kind of like informal,
casual,
like kind of casual, fun thing. Yeah, it's actually been one of my favorite shows because I just spent it kind of like hanging out, drinking beer, talking to my friends, listening to music, having some meetings.
That's kind of how PAX would go for me. Is like we don't take a ton of meetings at PAX, so it ends up being like we're going to see some games, but also like it's got that kind of almost summer camp vibe of just like everyone's in the same town. It's going to be great. We'll just hang out. No one will sleep. It'll be
it's
fun.
amazing. It'll be great.
And then so is there like an Indie Megabooth presence at the Devolver area?
So
there was supposed to be. Or there's not. It's like a parking lot business that Polygon reported on, right?
I think there's some other articles that are coming out later. We're kind of, I feel like we got a little stuck in the middle of the whole situation. It's kind of felt like, like my parents are getting a divorce and I'm in the middle and I'm like, stop fighting with each other.
Well,
we were just watching that. So good.
But I guess it worked out because I mean, like maybe you don't need your own, a show here because you've got your own show coming. Out, right?
Yes. Make a show.
So exciting. Yes.
So this is a one-day event in Atlanta?
Yeah. So it's going to be all day. It's kind of like a festival-style event. And so we want to do, we have a bunch of music, and we have a bunch of really cool games, and installation art, and alt hardware, and arcade cabinets. We're partnering with Adult Swim. Sony's sponsoring it. Yeah, we're doing it at a venue called the Tabernacle, which is just like, am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, anyways, it's like the fucking coolest venue ever. It's really, really amazing. Dave Chappelle is actually playing there this week, and it's like a really famous music venue in Atlanta. So like, we're super, super psyched about it. Tickets just went on sale on Tuesday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so if you're local to Atlanta and you want to go to the coolest thing ever.
If you meet these two requirements.
Those two requirements.
So Robin, behind closed doors with Luna, what's
that? Right.
Who's like where is it?
Well, exactly. This is so.
Okay, so this is like extra stealth.
This is
you can't even tell me where you were. The show's over, and we can't even talk about it.
The show's over. We were across the street, actually in a suite across the street from South Hall on Figueroa, and also upstairs at the JW Marriott with Microsoft. So Microsoft has this new range of mixed reality headsets that they've kind of soft announced it, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff coming up like Gamescom PAX timeframe, which is coincidentally right around the time that the game is going to ship. So we're going to ship in fall this year, and it just turned out that I mean, as you know, my jam is that VR is really amazing, and it's also hard to describe with words.
Yes.
It's been traditionally considered a luxury good because it's kind of expensive. But as a person who believes in technology and robots and the future, I see it getting more and more accessible and more open, not only for people to play games, but for people to make them. You out there in the audience is thinking about doing it. This might be your chance because there's no boundaries. Nobody knows what VR is now. It could be anything. You could make a game about being a giant banana that's brushing its teeth and it could just take over the world. I want 20% of that one.
Bananas do not have teeth? I will get Griffin McElroy in here. He's a banana expert, and we will find out.
But you hear me. Like, it doesn't have to be any one thing. And in fact, as a designer, I've realized that it is really hard to take traditional games and shove them into VR.
We saw some
very
here
bad.
At the show that
it's not great. It's not great.
Yeah.
And no offense to anyone who is having to do that because of the way that the games get financed or the way that the people above you may perceive what games are. But those of us who are doing it right now know that the best thing you can do in games is innovate, and especially in VR, you really don't have a choice. You have to do something new.
Yeah, like
it doesn't work. The old stuff just doesn't work.
Like there are rules starting to form, but it seems like most of those rules are around like, well, I can stand behind this thing and then peek out with a gun and do this.
Yeah.
Like that's like it's really like we've started covering fewer VR games on the site because so many of them are just shooting galleries.
And this is exactly the thing that I'm really concerned about, and I want to have a serious moment here. VR cannot become the comic books of video games. We cannot let this happen. We cannot let this happen.
I agree.
We have to get funky, queer, weird, sexy. I want to see some sexy VR games.
I've seen some sexy VR.
Wait, what? Where do I find sexy VR?
We know. So this is the thing. We need to really innovate. And what do people like to spend time doing?
Watching porn.
Eating, watching porn, having sex, cuddling, smoking weed, drinking, eating food that's delicious, and probably all of those at the same time in some capacity, depending on what your thing is.
Sure.
Yeah, so two people wearing headsets at the same time. It sounds really
Yeah, from across the room, very sexy.
Consensual headsettery.
It's Demolition Man. We've arrived at Demolition Man.
Yeah.
So Luna is actually the first thing that I've ever made for VR, and I'm learning all these things in it. And it really is about, like, the game itself is about untangling these puzzles, and then you find these pieces, and you use them to build a little world. There's a little bird, you can pet it. It's really cute. This is it right here. See, it's got big eyes. It's so adorable.
I have pet the bird. I can report
that the bird is petable.
Yeah.
But the thing is it's really, as you know, it's a relaxing and open experience. And it turns out that a lot of people don't want shit flying at their face, or guys jumping out at them, and like dinosaurs like just putting their testicles right in their face. Like not everybody loves that.
Some people are into that,
But not everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
not everybody.
For me, it's about wanting like a variety. Like Samantha, you kind of dabbled in some VR stuff.
Yeah, I was all in on VR for a while when I was like I tried to bootstrap a bunch of VR projects. It was pretty difficult for a relatively new indie dev to get funding, but I completely agree with Robin.
Yeah.
Like we're at this really critical point in our history with the games industry and with technology that we can define what VR is. And I see it as an entirely new medium. Like to me, it's the first new technology medium since the World Wide Web, like since the internet.
Sure.
And that we can do all sorts of crazy, amazing, life-changing stuff with presence, which is the thing that's really hard to describe.
Yes.
But that we should do new cool things. Like we should be creative. Like Tilt Brush has been so successful and acquired by Google and Medium, and I saw Luna at Indiecade last year, and with the line, it was always booked, so I didn't get to play it. But I remember seeing like the hands, because you have hand presence.
Yeah, we have hand
presence. But they were like, they almost look like claws or beaks or like crab.
Yeah, they're petals. They're like kind of like a pebbly claw brush.
Yeah, and just like that sense of like, oh, my hand is not 5 fingers, it's this other thing. Like that's really fucking powerful.
It is.
And we should do more with that.
Yeah, I was giving a talk and I mentioned just a little bit about this where I was like, VR is basically the ability to create your own universe and anything that humans can possibly imagine. Like, why are we shooting things?
Yeah,
like, haven't we shot enough things in video games? Like, the number of times I've solved a problem in my life by shooting it is 0 times.
0 times.
And the number of times
I've shot
solved
0
a problem
things
in video games by shooting it is like 150%
uncountable.
of the time. It's crazy. I was just like, there's got to be something
snuck
else.
into our house once, and my dad had
Did you
to
shoot it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Okay, so
that was a problem.
Yeah, so we can make that a VR game.
That was not the end of the game. That was like this, and then it became like the visceral cleanup simulator. So there's a lot of VR that could lead to other VR.
Oh, damn. What have I done? But this is really totally true, right? I mean, this is like there's like a world. If you can imagine a world, and you're going to make a movie, and let's say it's going to be set in space, right? And then there's there's one princess, and everyone else in the movie is a dude. And then they're trying to fight against one bad dude, right? Like
that's pretty much the ratio in most movies these days.
That's pretty much that's the thing we've been doing for a while. Star Wars? Yeah. Oh my God! You guessed. Ding 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 ding! And this is when like all the $5 million comes out.
Right.
That's where the money comes from.
Unfortunately, Ed Boon won the $5 million on the last segment. We haven't restocked the money machine yet.
So, rain of money. But yeah, we've been doing that. You know.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say we've been doing that for a long time. And like now, let's imagine a world where it's like I don't know, everything in the world is completely different. You know, totally new. Gravity works different in different areas. I mean, there's so many cool things you could do with the body, with being in that space, and yet for some reason we're just so fucking lazy. Like we're just like, you know what would be cool?
What would be cool?
You're a space marine.
I'm down. Where's my huge gun? Where's my huge muscles?
All right.
Do I have power armor?
I'm feeling it.
All right, here's your funding. Just how much do you need? I'll keep adding zeros to this. Just get this going.
I said this at the beginning of the night. I need $5 million. But yeah, so I mean, I don't want to go on and on and on about it, but that's basically what I've been talking to about with people here. And it's no lie, a lot of people, when we were at Judges Week, we were at Judges Week for the show, a lot of people were reluctant to put the headset on. They're starting to get tired of getting like this or like, ugh, you know?
Like I said, you know, we found
so we got to fix that shit.
The way we cover VR games is it can't be on our podcast. It can't be, you know, like written articles about VR.
Yeah.
You know, just don't really do it. But as we've been like, you know, and it's simple. We're not doing the full on like, here's the third camera in the mixed reality. You know, it's just like we are on a green screen. We're putting the game behind it.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of see what I'm doing as you can kind of see what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it takes that kind of work.
And that's been the thing that has, like, people start to understand at least a little bit. Even if they haven't tried it, you know, there are certain things that you still won't wrap your mind around completely until you've, like, done, and really almost anything, any one thing in VR that's sufficiently, you know, has presence and that sort of stuff, you start to understand the language at least a little bit more.
What I found in my research and prototyping with like various layers of abstraction or like relatability or hand presence or not, is that the most remarkable experiences really acknowledge the person with the headset on in ways that video games just never have.
No.
It's like this sort of like in context fourth wall breaking that I think is really fundamental and core to VR design. Like you have to acknowledge that there's a person there.
Yeah.
Like there's a human like with all their weird fleshy soft weird stuff going on in their brains and whatever.
Yeah, it's like just a
stuff.
series of impulses on the controller. And I think this idea about, you know, abstraction is really important. VR allows you to remove the abstraction. Like in Journey, you know, we have this controller. You can kind of control the camera by tilting it, right? But when you walk, you're pressing on a stick, right?
Yeah.
And then when you want to jump or call, you press a button. And so everything becomes these little micro motions, right? But when you're in VR, like, and you have hand presence, when you do this, like your body feels something. When you do this, you know, or this, and like the difference between the power grip and like shooting stuff and dual wield and all that stuff, the feeling that you get physically from this stuff versus that precision grip of dragging and placing, like you feel actual feelings in your body. Like there's a reason that girls cheerlead. There's a reason that boys cheerlead. There's a reason that people like to get out and dance because when you open your body and you do your moves, it feels good. If you really think about it, a lot of the stuff that we've been doing has been moving a camera around and you're just kind of sitting there doing this. It's like you're almost not even experiencing your body, you know? And all of a sudden now we have all this.
Yeah.
You have all this to work with.
Or we have like, you know, this and this.
But
get there.
But you know, the thing is when you move the hands and the head and you cause people to lean in and like pet the little bird and they go hee hee hee, like the feeling of looking down into something or looking up at something, that's all right here. So it really is your whole torso and possibly, you know, possibly even this, like you said, boom.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of like, you know, hovered jumpers or some of this other stuff that's been like very much like a lot of leaning, a lot of that.
The fancy word that I like to use is proprioception.
Yeah, proprioception.
That's a spelling bee word for you. But then also, you know, like that leaning back and forth, like getting your body into it. I've also been discouraged about the shooting galleries. As like you guys have talked about that, like so much of shooting galleries, and like let's do something more. I was gonna try to segue gracefully, but now can I do it awkwardly?
Just do it awkwardly.
So
the most ham-fisted.
So we were talking about acknowledging the player.
Yeah.
So in Astroneer, there's a button that you can have your backpack, which is your inventory, and it zooms up to the screen and acknowledges the player sort of in a similar way, which a lot of people sort of latched onto. A lot of players really appreciate, and it's sort of like toy-like, like action figures. It's very physical, tactile, and
it's like the UI is always right there, but like, hey, let me get a closer look at this.
But then it's like it's also like from like a design like UX, like typical UX perspective, it's a conversation. Like when you're acknowledging the person, like then you're telling them something. Like now I'm asking, like now you get to focus on this. And so we're trying to explore, like for the future of the game, like how do we enhance that conversation even more in lots of different ways and enrichen that experience.
You know, and actually one of the things in Luna that we've noticed is like, so it's a PC title that's VR accessible, really, when you think about it. So if you have VR, you get this other experience, but then what's happened is that working on the VR version has like informed the way that I think about moving the camera, and like I think how much I've realized how lazy I am. Like I'm a lazy ass game designer. You know, I'm like, oh well, we need.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I know. We need to get them to pay attention over there. We'll just move the camera, and then you just can't do that shit in VR. It makes you really sick.
Right.
So you're just like, oh, we'll just.
Even shooters have to do that, right? Like you think about like Gears of War would do the thing where it would just literally show a button prompt on screen, so because they know that no one ever likes to look up, so you just hold down the button and it just goes. And you go like, oh, there's a thing flying overhead, huh?
All right.
All right, sure, cool.
So
that looked neat.
What kinds of design challenges have you had, Robin, in like pulling players' attention? Like if they're looking at something and you want them to see something in the sky or on the ground, like how has that been hard? Has that been easy?
It's hard, but it's also the thing that makes it so hard is I'm always thinking to myself, well, we'll just pan the hook.
Like you can't pan.
This is what I'm saying. Like this
Does
is a
everything have to make
confessional
noise then? Is it just like you have to? It's got to be a frog down there making noise, and you're like, "There's a frog." There it is.
Yeah. There's a couple things you can do that, like a lot of people have been doing. One is a sound cue. The other is that you can bring something through the space. So we do a lot of stuff with the bird, where you see the bird flying out, and that causes the person to look up, and then we wrap and like bring you back out of the experience. Or the bird is making a little nest at the beginning of the game, and it gets called away by this owl. So the bird's there doing its thing, and everybody just goes, pet the bird. Well, let's wait till you pet the bird, and then we'll bring the owl in, right? And then the owl comes in, and you're like, oh, well, what? And then it's like not so friendly. And then it's like, oh, wow, and then they can have an interaction. But if you do the thing where you just put the bird there, and then the owl comes in, like what people do is they watch the bird for a little bit, and then they go, ooh, cool, and the owl shows up, and they don't even see it. And you can do and all the stuff with there be sounds and stuff, but it doesn't really matter. And so the other thing you have to do, I think, is pace it really well. So you gotta and I'm not saying this because we have figured it out. I'm saying it, as Kelly knows, because we live together in Santa Cruz, so she hears about this shit all the time. And yeah, if you put up, oh my God, thank you. It's like, thank you from my game designer's heart for listening to my dumb stuff. But there are things that you have to do where you just let people have a moment. Like think about it. If in VR you can teleport someone like from, say, looking at this little terrarium filled with all these beautiful plants and flowers and trees and stuff that they've been sculpting for, say, 20 minutes, then you can cut and fade and then take them down inside of it. That's pretty fucking magical right there.
That's really cool.
But like smart-ass game designers and then cue the cutscene. So people are like, oh my God, I'm missing something. Like they're freaking out. Like I was just like, I gotta slow this shit down, and like, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. You got to. Sometimes you got to move them up. Sometimes you got to move him. Let him take the space.
I mean, that's why I basically only play like sandbox games. Like I hate
exactly.
I hate being tied to like I have to do this thing at this time. Like the last thing I want to do is like I don't want to have a goal. I don't want to have the time pressure. Like I have enough of those in my life. Like I don't want to go into a video game in a fantasy world and then be like I'm going to follow a bunch of rules, have a bunch of goals, and then follow a clock and then do all this stuff.
It's like, oh, cool. It's like here's another job you've got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Oblivion for me has become like a flower collecting simulator. Like I've spent like 100 hours collecting flowers. Like I've closed 4 Oblivion gates and I'm like on level 8 and I've been playing it for like 6 years. I just got far enough on a side quest to get a house that I fill with flowers.
So one of the things we talk about like with VR especially is the idea of trying to demo it for people and show it for a wider audience.
Yeah.
I mean, with the Indie Megabooth and what you've been doing with kind of getting games out in front of people, like VR seems like this whole next level challenge. Like,
yeah. VR stuff was actually really interesting. So when we first started getting VR games submitted to us through the regular Megabooth showcase, like we open up submissions like about twice a year, and people send their games in. Like our criteria for what we put in for VR was like, does it make you vomit? No. Okay, good.
Then forget it.
Yeah, well, it was
oh my God, we should just give up now.
Like we play like stuff that is not ready, it's not optimized. Like I get motion sick, and so I would have to have other people help me test it. But the consumer fans like really wanted to see this hardware because it was only available to developers, and so like the demand was super high. But then the content that we were seeing was like, oh my God, people are gonna be throwing up on themselves like on this.
Until
show.
Luna. Which showed at the Megabooth last year.
Yeah, I was going to say the quality has gotten better because people have had more experience with it, and so and then for the Mega Show event, we're actually having Colin Northway is curating the VR content for us, and he's brought together a bunch of stuff that's really like easily accessible. Like Tilt Brush is going to be, we're going to want to have like a drawing competition and stuff like that, like things that are really like easily accessible.
Esports for Tilt Brush.
Yeah. But then the other thing that you have to also think about it, which I hadn't really thought about this before, is that it's like a party and people are drinking, and like if you're drinking and you put on VR, like you have to make sure that these are like games and that you have somebody who can identify like, okay, you're like just a little too tipsy for this situation.
Give out reverse drink tickets.
Yeah,
for every drink you serve someone, you stamp them here, and if the line's up this far on their arm,
no
VR,
no VR for you.
No more VR.
You must be under this drunk to play
VR. Yeah, basically, because you don't want someone's first experience with VR, to be really unpleasant. Like you said, it's something where there's like tons of stuff coming at you, because with the local events, what we want to really do is like reach out to local audiences, but then people who wouldn't like typically like go to a really like hardcore video game event, like when someone would be like go to a music concert or go to an art exhibition or just want to hang out with their friends or something. And like we had this when we started curating for the Megabooth stuff initially too, is there's a lot of cool, weird experimental games, but we didn't want to have all that kind of stuff in there because the kind of consumer audience wasn't really ready to experience just a bunch of weird stuff. It would really turn you off. Like you can't just throw someone in to be like, oh, okay, you're going to learn about art, and also here's the most abstract shit that you can possibly ever
unless it's vaporwave, you just get that.
You can't just like march them out of the GameStop and into the back of GDC.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, all right, this is where the real shit is.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much. It's like it's too much. It's too much. So we would kind of like we started slowly sneaking in over the years like a bunch of little like weird stuff, and we would hide off in corners and like and kind of grow that a little more and a little more. And so we kind of have to think about it and curating the content in the same way for for these events that are going back a little more to like more of a general audience, where it's like and like games that are out already and stuff that can be rediscovered, like you have Crypto the Necrodancer and stuff like that, because it's like unless you're like super deep in the video game indie scene stuff, like I mean there is always like cool stuff to discover and things that you can play, in an interactive way or like in a kind of arcade style stuff, but you have to be really cognizant of it.
Well, and also it's always really fun to see people fucking geeking out and having a great time with video games.
Yes,
like I don't need.
Like video games are fun.
Yeah, they're fun. They're actually fun.
Weird, right?
Yeah, I know.
Pleasurable
It's crazy.
experiences, and they don't have to be brand new to still be pleasurable. You know, like you can see
I don't know
someone
about
enjoy
that.
something that's like 2 years
Newest,
old.
latest.
I actually had to, so I demoed at the Megabooth a couple of years, and it was in that experience and watching people play that I sort of was reminded of the point of why we make games is like to watch people enjoy themselves, like create those good experiences, and like that it's really important.
Well, like a lot of the times when people like will show their game at the Megabooth, they come out of it and it's actually like it's reinvigorating for their team. It's really inspiring because like a lot of times you're sitting there and you're working on something for years and years and years and years,
stress.
And it's like the resources are low, or you're stressing about stuff, and then you come out and you show something. Like I think Sarah Northway had come out and shown something, and she was like, it was the rebuild stuff or something, and she was like so inspired at the end of it because she's like, I didn't realize I had so many fans, and all these people are coming up and just like, oh my God, you made this game that I love, and it was like it was really like inspiring for her to like have people come up and say how much they really enjoyed your work, and it's just kind of like, okay. I mean, it's the same with the event stuff too, right? It's like we work on these shows for like months and months and months, and I'm like sitting in front of a computer and looking at spreadsheets and just hating my life.
Which I know because I live with Kelly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which you see me like standing and just freaking out over numbers and spreadsheets and stuff.
Like, when is it gonna be over?
I know, and then you have the event, you're like, like 4 hours before it's happening, you're like, I'm never doing this again. And then afterwards, you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. Now I have
all right, we got to plan the next show.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and it's kind of like the rush that you get from that, from seeing like how much people actually really truly enjoy this and how much it means to people and like how important it is to them and like the kind of experiences that they have in like a shared environment is super, super important.
And creating that sense of community. You know, we have all been part of this indie community for so long that we forget that like it's new for some kids. You know, like we have kids come to play Luna at PAX and like they came back multiple days in a row to come and like hug the turtle and like hang out with the bird.
And the way people like establish their favorite games at the show and they come back again and again.
And they'll be like, oh, I brought my friend.
That's the best.
You need to see this.
Yes.
Come see this.
And also it's important when you're doing a VR game to just watch all your players puke. Can I pitch a VR game for the Indie Megabooth right now? This is a live pitch right now. This is a giant bomb.
Oh my God, where?
Okay, so this is VR Simulator 2018. The concept is you are in the Vive with your controllers. You are in the Vive factory. And the parts are coming down, and you have to take them and put them into the boxes. But then in VR, in your hands, are other small people in Vives. And when you reach out to grab something, you pull the trigger, and then those players on multiplayer get the prompt, the QTE, it's like, pull your trigger! And then they have to do it, or you grab it. But then in the meantime, like as you're moving around, they're just like, holy shit! Am I in?
I think that sounds amazing.
Okay, good.
Asynchronous multiplayer is huge right now. This is it's perfect.
Totally.
Did Liam ever tell you his VR?
No.
His VR plan.
No.
I want to give him full credit for it.
All
So
right,
this is Liam's. This is Liam Raum's working in Berkeley. His thing is VR rodeo, where it's basically as horrible as possible, and you have to survive like the 8 seconds or 6 seconds in the VR thing without throwing up or ripping the headset.
Oh yeah.
Which is actually I really love the idea.
I wanted to be. Like when we first started getting headsets, there was a part of me that was just like, I'm gonna be the Chuck Yeager of this shit. I'm gonna strap in and just like, I want to get sick. I want to know my own limits. How far?
Yeah, basically, it's like you put it on and instantly it's just like you're flying 1,000 miles an hour. There's stuff coming at you. There's noises.
Just
like,
90 degrees,
just
just hard.
horrible.
The world is just spinning constantly.
It's glitching. That's the frame rate's just dropping randomly.
I'm getting sick just thinking about this.
Oh my God, I know. Like this would, I would not.
I would do that.
Well, that's the thing is people ride the bull, the mechanical bull thing, and do all that weird.
I'll send you a build next week.
Cook something up, just a timer that detects when the headset comes off or something. And because I just want to know more about me in a weird way. I think that's something that VR can do, not necessarily in the roller coaster nightmare hell way.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not.
But
the kind of defining experience for me was the very first time that I tried VR was like when the Vive was kind of first announced, or room scale VR was first announced. I went to the Valve offices and I tried it out. And they had there was like a gap in the bridge of the nose and the headset, so you could still see the floor, so that it wasn't like so disorienting. And it was all like mostly like tech demo stuff. And there was one where it's like okay, stand right here, close your eyes. I'm like, okay, and then you open it, and then you're just like standing on a square, and then you look down, and it looks like it's like 5,000 feet down into the bottom. And I'm not really good with heights. Like if I can look over and I think I might fall, it makes me really freaked out. Like the 4th story of a mall is like my biggest nightmare. But like airplanes I'm fine with, airplanes are right. And like I could see that there was carpet, and like I could understand it, but like I was having this like short circuit basically where like my palms were sweaty and I was like starting to giggle and I was like trying to walk off it, but I like kind of couldn't physically bring myself to do it, but I could like see that that I knew that it was actually not real, and it was like it was freaky. totally bizarre to me. That was just like it was really interesting to be like my body physiologically is like reacting in this very specific way based on this fear that I have.
That's the feeling I've been chasing. Because I haven't really found it very often.
People are not doing the thing with scale that they could do, and like my experience
the scale stuff to me was super impressive.
Very similar. I actually went down to see Ottman and the stuff at Valve. Like 4 PAXs ago, 5 PAXs ago. It was so long ago.
Doug was actually the one who did the
I was going to say, so Doug and Ottman are friends of ours. We've been doing it forever, and they were like, oh my God, we're working this really fucking weird thing. We don't know what to do with it, but come and check it out.
I gave him a hug afterwards. I was like, oh my God, I had no idea this is what you were working on.
This is amazing. It's like so cool, right? And I was like, I went for like basically to have lunch with Ottman and take a look at it. I ended up staying all the way through dinner. And we sat down in the cafeteria and we talked, and I was just like, oh my God, my mind is blown. Like, I'm already designing a game for this. Like, oh my god, oh my god.
I,
and then I was
called
like,
my mom after. And I was like, I had no idea the future got this far. It was like someone gave me a hoverboard, and I was like, holy shit, I didn't know we were even like on skateboards.
It was so cool.
I tried that too, and going into that room, I was skeptical. Like I was like, VR is not a thing. I walked out, I was like, I see you, Jesus.
Converted, and I think we all sounded really crazy. I think people thought we were really nuts. Like, oh yeah, like I mean, when I was in graduate school in like God, let's just not even go there. A long time ago. I'm old. When I was in graduate school, I used to go and go over to the U of I had some stuff that they were doing with this cave. You put this thing on and glasses and you're moving around, and then the experiences would always be like, this is a simulator of an autoclave for airplane engines or whatever. You know, it was like they were really awful things because that was the only people that would fund this shit. Right? Was Boeing. But it was like really, it was awful. It was just, I'm just gonna say, it was shit. It was really bad, and you'd be like, oh, that's exactly what I expected when I went into that room. And when I came out, I was literally like emotionally like overwhelmed and excited and a little traumatized at the same time, like holy crap, because the responsibility, and we've talked about this a lot, like I had an experience where I did a demo, an AR demo, where there was a moment in the demo where I turned over my shoulder because I heard a sound, and there was a man holding a gun to the head of a child. And
as you do.
As you do, right? And it was backstory. I went like, oh my God, you know, like I was really overwhelmed and freaked out. And I said to the demo person, oh my God, is he gonna shoot that boy? Like I can't see that. Like that was my feeling was, I can't see that. If I see that, I'm never gonna be able to unsee it. And they're like, no, it's just a story. Like you're gonna be looking for clues. It's just a clue, it's a memory. And I was like, okay. Anyway, I asked him to shut the fucking thing off.
It's just super aggressive, no big deal.
Just shut the fucking thing off and put me in something else. I was like, don't you have anything with blocks or like, I don't know, toys, you know? Like,
shoot fireworks.
Now. But I took the headset off and I tell you, no lie, I could not look over my shoulder without seeing it. Your brain remembers mixed reality and augmented reality stuff very differently than it remembers the VR stuff. And I walked out of that room and I went immediately to the front desk and to the person that was like, you know, making the appointments, and I said, please talk to the person that's doing this and have them remove this demo from this. It's not good.
Or at least give people, like,
just like give them the feedback that this is too much. Please do not make this the first time experience. I'm totally okay with this game being made. I'm totally okay with people pushing the boundaries.
Totally.
But this cannot be the first experience a person has in this.
Yeah, it's like this super horrible, traumatizing situation.
It's too much. You know, it's too much. And like, I never want to say that these kinds of games shouldn't get made because I mean, I run the experimental gameplay workshop at GDC, so I have seen it all. And I love weird games, and I love games that are broken, games that are bizarre, but like, we have to be very careful with how we release the content and how we think about it, because it only takes a couple of those to really poison, you know, the whole world against
especially,
it.
With a new medium like VR, you know,
you gotta think
there's a certain amount of just like, okay, well, what? And that was something like, you know, I got my Rift and all this other stuff, and it's like, okay, well, you know, I've kind of somehow become an old hand at this somehow. 6 months in, I've done a lot of it, and it's like, okay, well, what am I going to show my wife? And I had to sit there and look at all these things and just go like, well,
tilt brush.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, if VR does nothing other than the fact that I can put on like noise canceling headphones and smoke a joint and sit and paint some stars, like, I'm pretty sold on the whole situation. Yeah. Like, it doesn't literally doesn't need to do anything more than that.
I ended up putting her in the. It was just a 3D video of a Paul McCartney concert.
That's also great.
And it was just like, you know, like just kind of here's a way to kind of maybe ramp up. And she's a big Paul McCartney fan, so that really helps too.
Well, that was one of the things. Like, one of the demos was just like a photo of the Vatican, like I don't know, in front of the Vatican or something. And what it made me think of, which was really interesting, was like this. If I didn't have to strap on this giant headset, it was like this would be perfect for my grandmother to like be able to see things that I've traveled, like virtual tourism.
It's true.
And
end of life VR is a thing. People are doing this. Like when they're in their deathbed, they're like, I really always wanted to see the Sistine Chapel. Okay, well, now you can.
Here's what we got.
This is what you get.
I wanted to. I had the idea too late. I actually had it that night that I played Luna during Judges Week, talking to Adam Orth. I was like, you know, we should have bought a camera and put it right here.
Yeah.
And let people sit on a fake couch here and, you know, and watch this stuff from whatever angle.
I thought we were going in a San Junipero direction with this, where we live on in VR as virtual ghosts after we die.
I have to say, I'm not into that.
Part of what I was thinking of is that, like,
I like actual fucking. I don't want to fuck in the virtual future.
Well, the thing with the 3D pictures though is it's kind of the same thing as like an iPad or whatever, where like the technology got more advanced and it actually got easier to interact with and became more intuitive. Like the idea of interacting with a computer by using a keyboard and a mouse is like super counterintuitive and does not make sense. Like I talk to people who have kids now and they're like, my kid will touch the screens of everything because that makes way more sense than like, here's this bizarre thing.
Why does the screen do that? And then suddenly they're breaking your TV.
Yeah, like how do I send my grandmother pictures when she's like doesn't understand how to turn on her computer? Like she's not, I don't know if she has an email account. You know, like I basically had to physically go to her and show her this stuff, and it's like super complicated. Whereas just like if there were lighter little glasses and she just like suddenly got pictures and could look around and be like, ooh, this is what my granddaughter was doing. You know, that's actually like one of those situations where it's like it's way more intuitive to just turn your head and look and see what's happening than it is to do all this like bizarre other shit that's like really scary, like push 14 buttons, on this controller.
Oh my God, with Journey, like my mom actually played all the way through Journey, which I never expected, right? Like, and not only did she play through it, like my mom's old, because I'm old, and she's older than me. That's just the way it works. I'm just like, oh no.
Every time I say something to my mom about getting old, she's like, how do you think I feel? My daughter's your age. Like, all right.
I want to meet your mom.
Oh, your mom. Kelly's mom is really, honestly, she's a goddess. She's a fucking goddess.
Diane from Payroll. She does all of our payroll and HR stuff. Is so cool. Diane from Payroll.
But this thing about, like when I gave her the controller, I had this momentary like, because I thought like she's gonna get in there and she's gonna get afraid of the buttons and she's not gonna. So what I did was I said, you know what, Mom, I'm gonna let Dad learn it a little bit and then you can give it a shot. And she said, okay. And she sat down next to my parents and my dad started playing. He was like, oh wow, it's beautiful. It's very lovely. It's, the wind and sand and all stuff. And then my mom just goes, and it's like, and we had been to dinner. They had at least a bottle of wine because my parents love wine. And she played it all the way to the end. And then she turned to me and she said, I didn't know you'd made a game about Jesus.
And you're like, I didn't know either. But,
I didn't know either.
Fair enough.
But for her, it was a revelatory experience. And like that one moment where I thought, oh my God, I didn't do a good enough job.
Yeah.
There's one button too many in the game.
They didn't get enough headshots on their way there. They didn't,
what if she can't?
Not enough kills on their way to the end. Yeah.
Well,
I never want to have that feeling. Like 0 button game, that's what you're talking about. Is 0 button game.
Well, so like I was starting to play The Witcher 3. Liam and I were playing it through together, and I mostly play on PC games, and I mostly play management sims, which are just like
this is so true. And what do you name every town that you build?
Kellytown.
K-Town.
Or Kellyville.
So let's take a ride to K-Town.
Super Fun Park.
Fun Park is the other one. I'm really, really bad at naming things. That's why the Megabooth is called Megabooth, because it is a very large booth. Yeah.
It works.
And Mega Show is a big show.
I just go to, whenever I'm presented with any kind of like enter a name thing, I always just hit end to see if there's a default name.
Oh, yeah.
Because who am I to name a character?
Oh, yeah.
That character probably already has a name somewhere. Like, I don't deserve to.
So all your characters are named and.
Yeah, I get stuck on it. I just freeze up. Like I had this as a little bit of a side story, but my favorite stuffed animal from when I was a little kid, I got like way before I was even born. His name, I don't know why I call him this, Mr. Raccoon, and that's just been his name. It's just Mr. Raccoon.
Is it a raccoon?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, so it makes a little more sense, but it's just like he didn't have a first name, he didn't have a middle name. He was just Mr. Raccoon. Mr. was his name.
Goldfish growing up.
It's actually human. She thinks we're all raccoons.
Right, that's the thing. Yeah.
You don't know I'm not.
Oh my God, you've been a raccoon this whole time, Mr. Raccoon. You come back.
I had goldfish growing up, and I didn't name any of them.
Or were they just goldfish?
It was just because they don't.
Yeah, why?
They only live for like a month anyway.
No,
not Mr.
These
Goldfish.
motherfuckers made it like 15 years.
What?
Actually, I was going to say
I had to
goldfish are
stop
like
with my goldfish because I couldn't keep them alive, and I was like, this one's dead again. Just throw away the tank. I can't do it.
The whole thing.
Just burn it.
Yeah.
Well, the fish were dead already because obviously I was negligent. So, that turned dark.
That's
for a
dark.
second.
But you're not negligent when it comes to development of Astroneer. How's it been going? Kind of, you've been working on your own and doing stuff for a long time, like integrating with a team and now being part of this. Like that's got to be a pretty big.
Well, it helps that there are no goldfish in the game.
Okay, yeah.
So it was one of my goals because I had been so used to working by myself that I really wanted to work with some people that we made something that none of us could make alone. Something that's ours instead of mine.
Yeah.
And actually what happened was I shipped Centris, and as I watched it not sell, I like fell into like a stoned Phantom Pain loop. And I was like, this game is so fucking huge and amazing and incredible that, and like it took like 500 or 1,000 people to make this. So, like, I want to participate in that. So the team is top tier. I want to shout out to the team. Everyone there. Aaron Biddlecom is one of the designers that I'm working with. It's actually he and I are the designers. Aaron worked on Galaxy before this, and Brendan and Adam, the founders. Shout outs to Paul, rest in peace, and Jacob, who like decided that he wanted a career change after early access. Like, was like, early access, like, this is too much, I'm out, peace out. And you know, Veronica and everyone. So they're all they're fucking top tier team. Yeah. We've been really lucky. The game has sold really well. I guess we sort of hit popularity with the No Man's Sky audience and with the Minecraft audience, because sort of like mixing of those two worlds. And it's sold really well. The company's able to grow, and that's why they were able to bring me on.
Rub some of that off on me.
I'm trying. Space
Girl,
sims, space survival crafting. That's the direction.
I actually, honestly, like that's I mean, that we showed in the Megabooth a while ago, and actually it was really funny because when they first submitted it, it had no UI and no instructions. And like one of the biggest pieces of feedback was like, what are you supposed to do? And we had to look up like a text file thing of all the stuff, and that was one of the big pieces of feedback that I gave them. They're like, oh, we want people to organically discover. I was like, no one is going to organically touch every key on the keyboard.
Exactly. The game,
too organic.
The game currently has like a minimal
this was like years ago. This is
sure.
very early version
That's
of it.
so funny though. We want them to organically discover it. You know, actually, speaking of organic, someone told me at one point, not too long ago, that they wanted to have organic diversity in their organization, and I said, there's no such fucking thing as organic diversity. In a world that tells girls they can be smart or pretty, and tells people of color that they can be entertainers or in sports, fuck you. Don't ever say that ever again. So, no such thing. When people say the word organic, they mean lazy. That's what they mean.
So one of the founders.
So the space survival thing, I'm a giant like Star Trek space.
Cool.
And I love open world things and simulation stuff. So I basically I played it for like 5 minutes. I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like,
cool.
I love it. It's great. I think the team is really great too.
Yeah, the team's great, and they've been being proactive about diversity. So one of the founders is like, Samantha, like, keep me honest, like, help me build this team. So like, we're trying to get more women in, we're trying to get more people of color in, but like, we're hiring, so there's all that good stuff.
Being successful will really help. Because people really want to work on games and be in diverse teams, but they also want security and safety.
Exactly.
And it gives you the resources just to bring people on.
And they want training and support, and it's so helpful.
So I feel like I'm in a position that's like kind of a once in a lifetime experience, and I feel really grateful, and I'm really happy. I'm working in Unreal, so I'm like developing my own skills, because I've been a Unity kid forever, and now it's like UE4 is some serious shit. And Blueprints is fucking rad.
That's cool.
And we're also, Aaron and I are like Super Saiyan merging our powers because we have like very different design philosophies. And so for the first month, we had to basically lock ourselves in a room for 2 weeks. We said to the team, we're doing a deep dive, and then we didn't come out for 2 weeks. And we basically just like dissected.
What are you doing in there?
Yeah, basically, we had a window so they could like peek in and just look at us like having like intense conversations.
Make sure you were still alive.
And what we were doing was literally dissecting the game, because the design lead had left the company. So we were trying to, almost like in an anthropological way, dissect the game, pick it apart, figure out what is good here, what do people like, what was the intention, and what do we as designers want to do with it. And so we sort of like came to this common understanding of each other's philosophies and approaches, and we've been like really like powering up because of that.
That's great.
So like we built all this trust.
We had really good.
I was gonna say I haven't seen you in a while either.
I'm not gonna lie, things got dark for a minute. I'm still getting out of debt, but it's like video games life.
That's the thing, and we never know. You know, you just never know. I say this to my team all the time, and also have a great team who I love very much. And I have 2 teams actually. So there's my team and there's Katie's team, right? So we have two games that we're building. And I always say this to everybody. I know it feels shitty right now, but it's gonna get better. And then if it doesn't get better, we're all gonna get better jobs, not in the games industry or somewhere else, working with a bunch of great, crazy, awesome people, right?
If you're making good stuff and putting it out, like, you know, that's going to lead to the next thing, or it'll keep you there doing that.
Doing the journey is is the end in and of itself. You have to want to be making games and learning. I think that the thing that you just said that's so compelling is that you are learning new things. You always got to decide, like, okay, like we talk about this. I mean, we have so many conversations about, like, about being out of our comfort zone. And I'm just like, oh my God, Kelly, I'm a failure as a CEO. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe this business. What am I doing? You know, and we talk about it all the time. And the thing is if you understand what you're learning, while you're fucking up, it makes the fucking up feel a lot less bad.
Oh, sure. I bet.
It still feels bad.
I usually have to go through the fucking up and then at the end go like, did I learn anything? It's like, well, maybe there was this one thing. Maybe.
Well, there's also been a lot of times too where I think I'm taking risks where I'm like, oh, you know, I'm totally fine at dealing with failure, but then like realizing that I was actually failing in very safe ways and never actually failing, and then getting to points where I was actually going to fail and then like publicly fail, and it's just like, it's a lot of like, it was a couple months ago, I was also having a rough time over the last few months, where things are like getting a lot better. At some point, I actually think I was talking to Dave. I was just like, I just like had no fucking idea. Like I came from like a background of like, my background is in chemistry. Like I got a job at MIT. I like did all this stuff where I was like overcoming things and I was like making it fucking happen and just doing all this shit. And then like when I got into video games, I was like, not like, oh, this is bullshit and it's gonna be easy, but I'm like, it's business, you know, like that's hand wavy shit compared to like, compared to the stuff that I was doing. And like, and I've had a lot of, like I've worked at a lot of startups and I had this opinion of like my bosses where I'm like, oh, I could totally do it better, I could do it better. And like, I just like have recently come to a realization of like, I had no idea what I was talking about. And I really, really thought that I did. And I didn't understand how difficult it was gonna be. Like I'm responsible for paying people, I'm responsible for like, for now like for an entire community of developers, for like myself, for like my friends and the people around me. And like, man, it is heavy shit. It's really, really hard to do and to like keep doing it all the time. You know, it's like, you gotta like,
that's
do it
really,
confidence. Do it with confidence. Like keeping doing it with confidence. That's hard.
There's been research that's shown. I learned about this research through John Cleese, bless his heart. There's research that's shown that people don't know. Like, the skills that are required to be good at something are the same skills required to know how good you are at a thing. And so if you are, if you suck at it, you literally don't know if you suck at it.
So like when I first started in game stuff, I was working at we did like all client-based work, and I got trained as a project manager, and like I would get so frustrated where I'm just like, people are coming to us and they're giving us crazy stuff and asking for stupid things and timelines that don't make sense and budgets and well, at some point I was like, oh, if they knew what they were doing, they wouldn't need to hire us in the first place.
Exactly.
And it made it so much easier to get the work done after that, where it was just like, oh yeah, they actually don't understand what they're asking for. And
no.
That's why they need this additional help.
Which is why when you're having a conversation with a publisher and they're like, so why isn't there a banana brushing its teeth? You can go, they don't make games. They just sell them.
They think that like, oh, well, maybe this banana brushing teeth will help. Maybe that's probably what we need here. We got to wrap it up. I think we're going to replace me with a banana and a toothbrush.
Exciting.
Samantha,
well, can we just get you a suit?
Thanks so much. A banana suit, maybe that would help.
I say this is my last commitment of E3.
Me too.
All right.
I just want to say thank you for being here. I also want to say thank you to the fans and thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for coming through. Always a pleasure to see y'all.
All right.
And we are going to take another break and come back with some more guests. Giant Bomb's post E3 2017 coverage. It will continue.